Hey guys, it's Eliana here, and I'm a wedding photographer located in Los Angeles, California. And today I'm covering everything you need to know about booking your wedding vendors and giving you a general timeline of when each vendor should be booked by. All right, so let's dive into it. So first things first, the very first vendors that you want to book, I would say anywhere between 9 to 15 months out. The first thing you want to book is your wedding venue. So the spaces where you are going to have your reception and your ceremony. Now, keep in mind, if you are a couple who is very set on getting married in a specific month or on a specific date, this means that you need to really be proactive about booking your wedding venue well in advance in order to guarantee that you get that month or that date. However, if you're more flexible in terms of the month or the date you get married on, obviously that offers more leniency of when you can book this by. But either way, I would highly recommend booking your wedding venue at least 9 to 15 months out. All right, so the second thing that needs to be booked is, of course, your wedding planner. Now, wedding planners offer a variety of packages and services. Depending on what package you get, your wedding planner may be involved in helping you to secure your wedding venue. But either way, this is definitely a vendor that should be booked well in advance. So the third vendor that you want to book is, of course, your wedding photographer. Now, I may sound biased here, but I really don't think I am. I think that the wedding photographer is really one of the most important vendors for your wedding day because, guys, you put all this effort and this energy into planning this day, right? And what are you left with at the end of it all? You're left with, well, your love for each other, obviously important, and basically the memories inside your minds and the wedding photos. It's so important to get a photographer whose style that you love and a photographer who you trust, because those photos, that's what's going to help you remember it all and remember all those details. And the wedding day passes by so fast. Couples often tell me that it was all one big beautiful blur. So those photos that's what you'll use to look back on and remember it all. So this is a vendor that you don't want to wait on, and just keep in mind that some wedding photographers choose to only take on a very limited amount of weddings per year to better serve their clients, and some wedding photographers choose to only take on one wedding per weekend because it is a job that involves a lot of physical labor. After a 10-hour wedding, I am absolutely exhausted. So even if a wedding photographer has your specific date available, if they are choosing to only take on one wedding per weekend and they already have a wedding on that particular weekend booked, they may still not be able to photograph your wedding. So it's just something to consider. If you already know that you really love a specific wedding photographer, definitely act on it fast is my recommendation. And also, everything I just said for the wedding photographer also applies to the wedding videographer, another really important vendor. Videographers also tend to get booked well in advance, so I wouldn't wait on that either. All right, so these next vendors should be booked anywhere between 7 to 9 months out. So the next one is the caterer. So keep in mind that caterers usually take on a limited amount of events per weekend because it takes a lot of effort and prep time to prepare all of that food. So if you have a specific vision in mind for, some type of catering that you like at your wedding, I would definitely recommend booking that caterer at least 7 to 9 months out. And then the next thing you'll want to secure is your wedding dress. Now, I know 7 to 9 months seems pretty early, but the thing is that wedding dresses tend to take forever to ship out. And also, there's the thing of, alterations. Alterations take a while, and it usually involves several appointments. So you just want to make sure to allot enough time for that. Okay, so the next thing you'll want to book is your music. Now, if you're planning on hiring a band, I would say focus on booking the band anywhere between 9 to 15 months out. But if it's a DJ, 7 to 9 months is fine. Now, the music, that's another area, that's another vendor that I would say is really important. Just keep in mind that whatever music you go with, it really can just impact the entire mood of the wedding day. So selecting a great DJ or a great band is really going to make all the difference. Your next vendor to book is your florist. Now, if it's a larger florist, most take on multiple events per weekend. So I would say 7 to 9 months out is going to be a great time frame in order for you to secure the florist you'd like. All right, so the next vendors to book are your hairstylist and your makeup artist. Now, the hairstylist and the makeup artist, keep in mind that oftentimes couples they want to use them for a makeup and hair trial to see what it looks like in advance. I always think that this is a really great idea. And then what you can do is you can use that trial to also take your engagement photos. This way you can see what the hair and the makeup, how it photographs and whether you really like it. And if you don't like it, then you can use that to make adjustments, but at least you'll know in advance. So to take all of this into account, it's always a good idea to book them, I would say anywhere 7 to 9 months out, and this way you have time to also coordinate that with your engagement session. So the next vendor to book within this time frame is your officiant. If there's a specific officiant you want, these are vendors that tend to be busy pretty much every weekend. So I would really just try to book your officiant as soon as possible, especially if you have someone specific in mind. Okay, so these next vendors should be booked anywhere between 5 to 6 months out. And that is your invitation designer. If you're working with a designer, you'll need time to make any adjustments. You'll need time to make all of those customizations. If you're using them for save the dates, 5 to 6 months, I think, is a good time to book them. And the next vendor is if you want any type of specific music for the ceremony. I'm talking like, string quartet or a harpist or a violinist, something like that. That's a vendor that you'll also want to book 5 to 6 months in advance. And the next thing to book are rentals. So this includes everything ranging from a tent to a dance floor to linens to lighting to plates or candlesticks. I don't know, you can pretty much rent it all. It really depends on what it is that you need. But just keep in mind that, although these rental companies usually have a high stock of everything, especially if you have a higher guest count and you need a lot of something, I don't know, chairs, it's just a good idea to give them the amount that you need well in advance so they make sure to have that in stock and save that for you for your date. The next thing to book are your bartenders. Now, oftentimes, whatever catering option you go with, it'll include bartenders, but if it doesn't, I would say 5 to 6 months out is a good time to book them. And the next thing is the groom suit. Now, I would say that the groom suit doesn't need to be purchased at the same time as the wedding dress. It can be purchased a little bit later, but just keep in mind that you do want to purchase it at least 5 months out to give enough time for those alterations. Now, this also applies to the bridal party. The bridal party, start to figure out all those details 7 to 8 months out, and then 5 to 6 months out, the bridal party already should have their dresses picked, leaving enough time for all of those alterations, giving enough time for everyone to get, those accessories like their shoes, the ties, all of that. Keep in mind that from my experience, bridal parties, especially the groomsmen, they do tend to procrastinate on these things. So I would say the sooner that you choose those dresses or, those suits, whatever it is that you want them to wear, the better, because that gives them more time to then prepare and make all of those alterations as needed. Your next vendor to book 5 to 6 months out is your baker. So the cake maker, anyone that you want to take care of baking all of those desserts at least 5 to 6 months out. Usually they do take on multiple events per weekend, but it's still a good idea to book them in advance just in case that they are a baker that only takes on a limited amount of weddings per year. And now anywhere between 3 to 4 months out, you want to book transportation. So this is like the shuttle, the limo, anything that you anticipate needing to get from one point to the other on the wedding day. Oftentimes, if you have a complicated location to get to that doesn't involve parking, many venues in LA are situations like that. You will need to provide transportation for your guests, something like a shuttle to pick them up from the lot and then transport them over to the venue. 3 to 4 months out is a good time to book the transportation for that. All right, so for the most part, those are all the vendors you need to book at certain times. Now, what is the point of booking your vendors well in advance? Well, pretty much it widens your options, right? More variety, because it ensures that the vendors that you want are actually going to have your date available. Also, it just decreases the amount of stress holding it off all until last minute. I guarantee you it's going to be more stressful. All right, so another thing that I quickly want to mention, and this is super important, is that your date with any vendor is not booked by them unless you leave a retainer and a signed contract. This is so important because even if you had a really great connection with this person when you met them in person or you talked to them on the phone, and in your mind you may be thinking, oh, I love this vendor is for me. But unless you explicitly tell them that and then move forward with signing that contract and leaving the retainer, they may not know that, right? So they're leaving that date open to other couples. And if they don't hear back from you with you letting them know that you want to move forward with booking, they're just going to assume that you went with somebody else, right? So it's so important to leave that retainer and get that contract in, especially if it's a vendor that you're absolutely 100% certain on. Don't wait on it. Get that in so you can guarantee that they book that date for you. All right, guys, so that's pretty much it for this video. Hopefully you found it helpful. And if you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye, guys.